You're still watching Plus Politics, and now the former INEC chairman Attahiru Muhammadu Jega at the opening of the two-day conference. Professor Jega decried the attitude of some lecturers during the polls, saying their actions paved the way for faulty recruitment processes of the political class during the polls, thereby betraying the confidence of the electoral body. And still with me, I have Ambrose Igboke, a public affairs analyst, as well as Steve Agode, the Director of Rules and Ethics under the Accountability, Candor and Transparency Network. Gentlemen, now we hear this report from Attahiru Jega where he's blaming the lecturers, academicians, one of his own, for the fact that we have conniving in the elements with political parties or actors, and that has also led to the seeming lack of integrity or watered down integrity of the electoral empire, especially the 2019 elections.
Well, honestly, I don't understand what Jega is talking about. Because it
says some of them were compromised.
It is the INEC that went to recruit these people. They are lecturers in the various institutions, and then they went to recruit them to come be part of the process. And most of the issues that happened, they have been using these lecturers before. I mean, especially heads of higher institutions as collating officers at the state level or the various
vice chancellors,
vice chancellors of schools, some provosts, you know, just heads of higher institutions, and then they just use them as collating officers. They are not the field workers. INEC is the one that recruits the field workers, especially ad hoc staff, and most of the people that recruit as others are the youth corps members. So, and they have outside the youth corps members, they now have other ad hoc staff recruited. So I don't know where this is coming from. What I know is that the electoral process cannot be compromised without the active connivance of INEC staff, be it ad hoc or permanent staff. The lecturers are not, they are just the people who announce the results most of the time. And the few cases we saw that there were issues where the issues of, for example, Imo State, that the man even had to say, I am announcing this under duress, and some other places. So I am saying that the process, it cannot, the blame game is not solid, because if you are to blame people for the failure or the failures noticed in the 2019 election, it should not be the lecturers should not be singled out. The whole process, the whole INEC team should be blamed. Because the onus lies on the INEC itself.
Some would also ask one of the biggest questions we've asked so far at different points in time where we've had elections. What are lecturers, what are these academicians doing in the electoral process?
Well, I think,
you mentioned fish out of water.
Yeah, I think the reason why we bring academics into electoral matters is because there's a feeling that they should know better, that their learning and education and exposure should lead them to know better the importance of the process, of the solemnity of the process. But look, Attahiru Jega is an iconic figure in what do you call it, electoral firmament. This is an individual who has ushered in people from two different parties. He has organized an election where one of the major parties won. He has also organized an election where the other party won. And there's a feeling that if there's someone that should know about our electoral process, it will be him. Also, this was the former head of ASU and a vice chancellor. I think the nation ought to reflect deeply on what Attahiru Jega said. I don't think it is an issue to be pushed over lightly. I think what needs to be done is there should be a kind of review conference of this election in which people like him are invited as resource persons to throw more light on the kind of issues that he has raised.
Ambrose, will it be too quick for us to do an assessment or some level of comparative analysis between the performance of Attahiru Jega as well as... Why are you rolling your eyes?
Well, I've been doing a comparison.
As well as Professor Muhammadu Jega. Now, some would say it's too early. Attahiru Jega had 2 opportunities to do that. And we have here Professor Muhammadu Jega just having 1 term, and he should learn from all of the recommendations made, and hopefully they have some level of audits and assessment being done. Yes. And then the next election, come 2023, would be better.
Well, I see, it's not too early. Because the stage where Mahmoud is now, Attahiru Jega was also at that stage at first. So when you do comparative analysis, you compare in research, you compare when Attahiru Jega was on this stage, at this stage where Mahmoud is now, what were his achievements? And so when you juxtapose both, you now find out that Mahmoud has nowhere close to Jega. Because Mahmoud already had, Jega inherited a chaotic system from, what's this man's name?
Maurice Iwu.
It was a chaotic where ballot boxes were started, results were announced anyhow, you know, all kinds of, in fact, there was a Yoruba cliche that said whether you vote or vote, you don't enter, you know, all those kind of things. So that was the impunity then. It came and started systematically built a structure. All Mahmoud Yakubu needed to do was to key into that structure and improve it. So he didn't need to build anything from the scratch.
In your opinion,
in my opinion,
that structure and build...
In my opinion, Mahmoud Yakubu has not done well.
Okay, let's also go back to lecturers now. We saw vice chancellors as returning officers. During the announcement of results, it was... I found it a little bit disturbing that we have vice chancellors there calling out different names of political parties and the scores they had. And you ask yourself, this is Nigeria today in 2019. A party, 190 votes. AA, 5,000 votes. ABC, this, that. What sort of input do you expect from these learned individuals to ensuring that we have an improved electoral process?
Well, I think when like I said before, when you bring this kind of people, it's just that you feel that they should have a sense of the solemnity of education.
Or are they announcement machines?
Well, I would hesitate to call them that. Well, I honestly think that they have done their best. And what I think we need to do is to... I think my
question here is that what contributions do you expect these academics to bring forward towards our electoral process so that we have it improved, going beyond just announcing results and acting as returning officers?
Well, what other role?
What other do? Well, we have been having conferences. We have the INEC people itself have been having workshops and the rest facilitated by these academics. And all the issue, the onus lies on the INEC executive, chief executive. And that is why when we are analyzing, and we call him out because the buck stops at his table. Now, the announcement of those results was a huge joke because you had 70-something political parties, and you're asking somebody to read manually. They are struggling with papers. They are losing tiny prints, and some of them, the eyesights were not good. The lighting were poor in some places, and then you made a joke of VCs, honorable VCs. You made a joke of them. How will our students feel? You're one student of the school, you see his vice chancellor fumble and one on national TV. Because he was not even able to, some of them were not able to see what they're saying. And then you are having 70-something political
I think the greater thing is to say about that, those spectacles were unnecessary.
Yeah,
I mean, you really don't need those kind of public announcements. You could just have a screen. I think it could have, those spectacles were over dramatic.
Tardy.
What are the recommendations? We have less than a minute to go in the summary. Now, what are the recommendations from both local and international bodies, etc.? Do you expect INEC to be taking cues from and really doing a self-assessment this time around? Because Professor Muhammadu Jega made this clear that right after the election, the electoral empire was going to do an active, well-organized audit of the entire process and give us back a feedback?
You see, the problem I see with INEC from an outsider's point of view is I don't think there's continuity in leadership. One would have expected that when Jega left, what you would do, you engineer the next person in line to take over. You don't bring somebody from outside and all that, so that there's institutional memory.
What do you mean by someone from outside?
What I mean is that this man was obviously appointed from outside to come and take that post. So that there's institutional memory, you let the organization regenerate itself. You get my point. Bringing people in each time. The current professor is learning now. There are people under him that have worked with him who are seeing what he's doing. When he goes, the proper approach would have been let the people inside take over. They have so that institutional memory can help the process. Sometimes when somebody new comes in, even when there are people inside, it sometimes feels, I know better. I know better. They may not have been doing it right. What do they know?
Okay. So thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, Steve Agode, the Director, Rules and Ethics, Accountability, Candor and Transparency Network. Thank you very much. And we also have had Ambrose Boke as well, the Public Affairs Analyst. Thank you very much for your contribution so far. It's been an engaging one, I must say. And this is where we wrap up the edition of today's segment of Plus Politics. But it's time to bring you my take.
Almost 11 a.m. Wednesday, April 24th, and the President of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, arrives Lagos. Just a few weeks ago, the President, Muhammadu Buhari, was visiting Lagos as the presidential candidate of the APC, majorly to ask for the votes of the electorate. But today, he is visiting Lagos as the President-elect and the President. This visit is actually quite symbolic because it is for the President to get to commission projects that had been started by the outgoing governor, Attahiru Muhammadu, and completed by him. He is billed to commission 5 major projects. At about 1:30 p.m., the President, alongside host Governor Attahiru Muhammadu, and the governors of Ekiti, Ondo, Oyo, and Ogun State make their way to the Oshodi Transport Interchange to commission the multi-billion naira transport facility that will forever change the face of Lagos State. This right here is the largest transport bus interchange in Africa as at today. As soon as it commences full operations, it will be handling over 1 million passengers on a daily basis.
We operate on a dedicated bus. This is what we call bus reform initiative. So the idea is to phase out the rickety vehicles and bring brand new air-conditioned, safe and secure bus services within Lagos. The bus interchange comes with different levels. We have the ones that caters to intracity bus operation and also the intercity bus operation. So basically, this terminal is designed because initially we have about 13 parks in Oshodi, and we have a lot of on-street loading in Oshodi. But with this terminal now that has been constructed, you don't have all that. Once you come to Oshodi, everybody comes into this terminal, and from this terminal you can connect to your next destination. You don't need to go to the road because it is not safe for you to actually board your vehicle on the road.
From Oshodi, Lagos, Nigeria, Mary Chinda for Plus TV Africa.
Now it's time to bring you my take. We all anticipate with bated breath who the next doctors to fill the president's cabinet. Nigerians expect the new cabinet and by extension government at large to have been composed and ready even before the May 29 inauguration with assigned portfolios. What obtained in 2015 when it took the president over 6 months to constitute a cabinet will not be possible this time around. I expect to see a proactive cabinet, one that will be all-inclusive with technocrats and not party faithfuls necessarily who have nothing to offer or were seemingly compensated. Their various portfolios should be based on field of expertise. This is the final term for President Muhammadu Buhari. Given our experience in key sectors, it would be the best that the new cabinet be a set of round pegs and round holes, as we always say, with averagely young Nigerians, highly vibrant with proven records in chosen fields of endeavors and who are free from corruption. Nevertheless, a few ministers, some would argue in the present cabinet, could be retained. For example, Rotimi Amechi, Babatunde Fashola, Okechukwu Nelama, Oyema Udodoma, and much more. Well, that is still debatable. Well, depending on which side of the divide you fall, the last call still comes from the president. We cannot ignore the call that there should be competent youth in the cabinet and an increase in the number of women, at least 35 to 40% should be women. It wouldn't be a walk in the park, most definitely, as this time around Nigerians will be watching closely. And on the flip side of today's conversation, we also saw the red flag raised by the former chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Attahiru Jega, accusing academics used as ad hoc staff during the 2019 elections having connived with politicians to compromise the integrity of the polls, and which is highly unacceptable. Some would also say a stand shared by one too many. Now, come to think of it, 20 years after we had our first ballot hand-counted and read out on live television, we should have transcended the slow and laborious method of chanting election scores on TV. The 2019 elections have come and gone, and it's time to do some auditing. 2023 shouldn't take us so much. I'm David Alabi, and this is all we can bring you in today's edition of Plus Politics. It's a date tomorrow, same time.